Welcome to TM Radio Broadcasting. My name is Frank Allen. We are live from Boston, Massachusetts. It is Friday, August 11th, 2023. If you'd like to call the station and listen, dial +1 518 801 1318. If you have questions for anyone here, including Dr. Pimenta, please dial +1 617 987 8603. Tonight, we have a very special guest. I would like to introduce Dr. Pimenta. Dr. Linda Pimenta is a TI herself. She is also a psychiatrist and a coach. And I'm going to turn the floor over to Dr. Pimenta right now. Go ahead, Linda.
Thank you. So I think I'm a familiar voice for most of you, and I, for a while, just went by Linda to try to protect my identity because I'm a TI. But at this point, I'm going to be brave, and just like Frank, I'm going to stand right out there, and this is me, and I'm a targeted individual. But I also work for that psychiatric profession that has let so many of you down. And so I feel it's important that you know that there are people that you can trust, and I am one of them. I want to just, make some things really clear. I am Dr. Pimenta. I'm a nurse practitioner, board certified in psychiatry and mental health, as well as I'm also board certified in family practice. And I'm also a certified coach and mentor, a federally certified coach and mentor. I'm on this radio show tonight with two things that I can offer to y'all. I do have my own practice. I'm not affiliated with any of the big names, and I'll never be bought out by any of them because this is my retirement job. But the other thing that I can offer is some coaching. I just won't be treating you as a patient, but I can certainly listen to what your situation is and offer you some coaching. It's good to have somebody that you can bounce things off of that can guide you and perhaps give you resources. So that's what Frank and I are hoping that we can provide for you all tonight. I didn't know if you had anybody calling in or not.
I had someone call in, but it was during the introduction, so I think they're waiting for us to get started. So what exactly will you come to offer the TI community? Now, if someone comes to you, flies to you, drives to you, whatever, you will take them in as a patient, correct?
I can treat people if they are physically in any state that I'm licensed in. And currently the states that I'm licensed in, New Hampshire and Massachusetts. I am licensed in Vermont, but I'm going to let that drop in January. So if you live in Vermont, I can treat you till January. Then you're going to have to travel to New Hampshire in order for me to treat you. And this isn't my rule. This is just, it's a law with telehealth. So they had some issues about practicing without a license in states that you're not licensed in. I really think it's money generated. But so from the last call that we had, there was somebody who lived outside of the states that I was licensed in, and he was going to drive up to New Hampshire on a designated day that we had agreed we were going to meet that way. So even though he didn't live here, his insurance wasn't from here, but if he was physically here, I could legally see them. Or if you're physically in Boston, if you're on vacation, or if you come up to Boston, I can treat you if you're physically in Massachusetts. As far as coaching goes, it's a certification. I'm not practicing off of a license. It's a skill that I have that kind of, the goal with coaching is to to help you to decide what you need to do. It's to get you to realize what your strengths and weaknesses are or what your options are so that you can make the best option for yourself. That's something that we can do without, it doesn't matter where you are.
Yes, Linda and I have put our heads together. We have decided that this is a service that she should offer to the community, not just because she is a TI herself, but because it's a service that's needed in this community. We've had many people that they call me, they call everyone, and they want psychiatric advice. Okay, that's something that I can't give. As far as suicides go, the National Suicide Hotline is 24 hours per day, and the number is 988. They are trained to handle that, and that's something you should write down.
Thank you so much, Frank, for saying that. I'm going to kind of piggyback on that. And then if we get a call, if you could just have them hold until I just finish this thing, because suicide is a real important thing with the targeted community. It's the goal of this program is to get you to the point that you'll commit suicide, right? Then they get a check on their belt. But suicide is not just that moment that you have a firearm up to your head or that moment that you are going to take pills or whatever it is that you're going to do. Suicide, a time that you need to call that suicide hotline would be if you have been thinking about suicide, thinking about hurting yourself, and you're starting to think about how you can do that. So, in other words, you're starting to have a plan, or you can't get that thought. That thought it just keeps coming in. Call the hotline. These people are trained to do it, and they don't care if you're a targeted individual or not. Don't even tell them you're a targeted individual. Tell them that you're having thoughts of hurting yourself, that you are having thoughts of suicide, and you don't know what to do.
Okay, Linda, we have a caller.
Okay.
Well, we did. Maybe they'll call back again. But that's excellent. Please continue. Oh, here we go. Go ahead, caller. Okay, I guess the caller is having problems, so we'll just keep on going.
Okay.
When I have the caller online, I will let you know. Okay.
Okay. Again, 988. They came up with that number because people can remember 911 as a call for emergency. If you call 911, that's okay too. But 988, these people have special skills that they can talk with you. They may at some point during the conversation say, you need to hang up and call 911 and go to the emergency room. But sometimes they can talk with you and get to a point that they feel safe telling you to go get some help in an emergency room. You don't want to not get help if you are feeling like you want to kill yourself. So that's the one time that I would say go to the emergency room for the psychiatric evaluation if you're thinking of hurting yourself.
We have had many people just openly admit that they feel like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I have one close friend in Ohio, actually, that was thinking of that. And I said, you don't have permission. It's the only thing I could think of, but I just told you don't have permission to do that. It's against the law in two places, in heaven and here
Mm-hmm.
on earth. So
Yep.
she obviously is fine today. I,
So you prevented a suicide, but a lot of times when people they don't feel comfortable when someone mentions suicide, but suicide is really needs to be taken seriously, and I really am asking all of you, if you feel that way, reach out and get help. It doesn't I have treated people who think about suicide every single day. They don't have to call 988 if they're getting help and they have coping mechanisms. They know to what point they've gone beyond what their coping mechanisms can help them. Then they would call. And we did talk about coping mechanisms the last time that we were on the air. And this is something that I can work with you all too if during a coaching session, or if somebody needs to be treated, it can be done through my practice.
Okay, that's great. Apparently, we have a cable problem here. I'm probably going to have to dump one of these mics, but that's not a problem. Um, so, what protocols are there regarding prescriptions? I know you've gone into that a little bit, but we should get into it a little bit more, probably, like controlled
Um,
substances and whatnot.
well, there's some medications, that can treat anxiety. When you're looking at the targeted community, what are some of the things that are most common? Anxiety, depression, and probably thoughts of suicide. Everybody, most people at some point in their life think of that. They think, oh man, if I just, it'd be so much easier if I didn't have to deal with this. It's just if you have that thought that goes a little bit, it's more intrusive, and it's making you think that you want to actually do something to carry that out. There are different medications that you would treat depression. There is one medication for depression that would be a last reserve thing. It's under specialized conditions, and that would be a controlled substance. Anxiety, most medications that you can treat for anxiety are okay, but some of those medications are in a class called benzodiazepines, and those are a controlled substance. So that is something that you would have to have a trusting relationship with a provider who can prescribe those medications for you. If you have a if you're on those medications, it's okay, it's going to help you. They're usually short term. The provider would discuss different things with you about that medication and what you need to do or what you need to avoid, like alcohol, etc. Let's see, I said depression, I have said anxiety and suicidality. Now, there is actually medications that you can prescribe for somebody who is actively having suicidal thoughts, and they've been proven in clinical trials to be effective. Lithium was one of those medications. Lamotrigine is one of those medications. And there's another medication that is actually a controlled substance that's not really well talked about yet, because it's not only is the medication controlled, but how you can get it is controlled. You have to go through a specialized treatment center. And that's one of the things that in the future
Okay,
I do
Linda,
want to do with my
we
practice,
have
because it's ketamine, and ketamine has been proven to be effective with treating depression, that you've had multiple medications that have failed you and you're still feeling depressed and you're still
okay,
not.
Linda. We have a
Yep.
caller. Go ahead, caller.
Okay.
This is Studio A, TM Radio Broadcasting. Maldonado? Okay. That didn't work either. They're trying to get through, and we do have a caller queue here of like 25 callers, I believe. But
Okay.
that person, I believe, was Hispanic, and they did
Okay.
not realize that they had the wrong number. Go ahead, go
Okay.
ahead, go ahead. I won't interrupt you again.
Oh, no. So I just was kind of talking about that medication, and, ketamine, it is a controlled substance, but you can't just get it. You can't just go to anybody to get it. You really have to, it's controlled as far as who can even administer it. But it's exciting to know that that medication is out there, and it's something that we have in our toolbox that's finally starting to become more well known. So, and every provider that you see has their own medications that they start off with for most people. I mean, of course, medication prescribing is different for everybody. It depends on what you're trying to treat, but you also have to look at what has worked or what has not worked for the person in the past. What have they tried and what was the effect? The problem is if you do have to take medication for depression, it takes a long time for that medication to reach a therapeutic level. So it takes at least a month and sometimes 6 weeks. That's one of the common things that I tell people. I stress it with them. I'll follow up with somebody in the in between, but I have to really say we really don't want to be adjusting the medication too quickly. We really want your medication should be the lowest amount of medication that's going to give you the best therapeutic response. How are we doing those calls, Frank? We were able to get that to work?
No, it's not our problem. It's their problem. They're not doing the right
Oh,
thing.
in the queue?
Yes, right,
Okay. All
right.
right.
So you
Um,
you can continue about your medication or
so that
continue.
was good. I thought that was a good question for you to ask me to talk about because I think there's a lot of mistrust in the targeted community, and rightfully so, right? So that could be something that I could offer if somebody's doctor provider wanted to put them on a medication for depression or anxiety, and they're not really sure if that's a good medication or not. That would be a time that I could be consulted. So to say, yeah, that medication usually works really good for this particular issue.
Okay, that sounds good right there.
Hmm.
Um, Typical medications for depression are not something that is a taboo. Most of them are not controlled, correct?
Um, Correct. The only medication that's controlled for, as far as for treating depression, is the ketamine that I talked about. And we use a lot of different class of medications. Sometimes we'll use like an anticonvulsant or an anti-seizure medication to help with that mood disorder because it works with the other medication, the antidepressant that you're on. So we use different things that we know have worked on people in clinical trials and in practice, but also is not going to cause um, a bad side effect when you put these two medications together. That's the hard part is finding that right balance of which medications are going to play well together. They're going to work together to do its job, but it's not going to cause a problem for you or to cause other problems. Like some of the antipsychotics, I have actually used antipsychotics on somebody with depression. That class of medications can sometimes give you a side effect, and sometimes that side effect will never go away. Tardive dyskinesia, where you have these involuntary body movements, the clicking of the tongue, and things like that. And it can be embarrassing when it gets really bad. But you would have to be on something for a long time, usually, for that to kick in. But that's not a reason to not take the medication. You have to look at the risk and benefit ratio.
That sounds pretty serious.
It is very serious. You don't just want to go put somebody on a medication that's going to cause harm. But if you have somebody who is really needing this extra medication, you have to have that conversation that there's a possibility you could have a side effect. But I strongly recommend it, and that way the consumer or the client is aware of uh, they're making the choice. I believe that you, the client, is a partner in their care. I'm not the type of provider that says I'm the sheriff, I make the decisions, you do what I say, or you're not my patient anymore. I don't think that's the right approach, especially in psychiatry, because a lot of people still have that stigma with psychiatry. Although we're seeing more of the population on antidepressants now. I think it's more than half the population now.
Yeah, I would like to say in advance that I put all my trust into Dr. Pimenta. We have spoken on several occasions, and she is a TI through and through, and she will need our help as well. And I imagine she will join us on conference calls. You may be able to share some information there too. But, you know,
Yeah.
it depends upon her time, her day, how much work she has to do. Okay, we have a small commercial coming up. play that commercial and we'll be right back. Thank you.
If you are interested in natural, alternative health and nutrition, look no further than Dr. Janet Starhall, a leading expert in the field with over 25 years of experience. After healing herself from a near fatal disease caused by aspartame, Dr. Hall has dedicated her work to helping others take control of their health and wellness through simple nutrition strategies and natural detoxification. Join Dr. Hall's private online community at janethull.com, JANETHULL.com, and gain access to her hair analysis program, her natural detoxification videos, her pH balance program, healthy recipes, a weekly live Q&A session, and special guest interviews. Receive support from a thriving community of like-minded individuals who share your passion for holistic health. Join her private online community today, where you can learn how to improve your health and wellness through natural, holistic practices.
Okay, that's Dr. Janet Starr Hall. And what is happening is we are getting professionals together. Before too long, we'll have a whole range of professionals that will help us. Okay?
It takes a village, right?
Yes, it does. It does. Okay, we might have a telephone issue because I've just had another caller come in and go right out. So I
Okay.
I will have to check that out. So
Okay.
I apologize for that, but let me see. I think that as I was saying, that trust is an important issue.
Hmm.
I just tried to get that caller back again. All right, trust is an important issue, and you can put your trust in Linda. She is fantastic. She's great to talk to. She will work you through your problems. This I can promise you. All right, go ahead, Linda.
Okay, thank you. Trust goes both ways. I mean, hearing that commercial, Frank, I really appreciate that I'm actually working with you because if you heard, she had those keywords: natural, holistic. She's actually doing a hair analysis, so they can actually get information from that hair that's going to go back for months. So they're going on science, doing things that she wasn't mentioning any chemicals or you buying anything. She's offering a service. But as far as trust goes, I have to trust if I'm talking with somebody. I have to trust also. I mean, as a targeted individual, even as a provider, don't we all have that little bit of, oh, is this a perp or is this really a client? It's just it's okay for you to think twice about something. If you're talking to someone, it's okay for you to hold back a little bit until they've earned your trust. You have to do that to protect yourself as a targeted individual.
Correct. It will take some time for everyone to develop a trust in everyone. But what we are trying to do is assemble, as I said, assemble a group of professionals who are TIs that we all can go to. If you want to fly into New Hampshire, I'm sure that Linda would make arrangements to either pick you up at the airport or make sure that you are directed to the car rental service, whatever we can do.
Absolutely. Either New Hampshire or Massachusetts. I could see people remotely if they're in Massachusetts. It all depends on what's going to be better for you. I mean, this other person that was going to come up, we made plans and he never followed through. Not really sure why, but it doesn't matter. He must not have needed the services that he did when he made the arrangements. Yeah, there's plenty of, like, every airport has rental cars. Every airport has Uber or whatever it is that you like to use that can get you to hotels, and hotels have, discounts that you can go right from the airport. They'll pick you up from the airport. I can either see somebody, like I said, through telehealth, through telemedicine, or face to face. On an initial visit, if you're making the trip up to New England, I think you deserve a face to face visit. So we'd have to see, if possible, if we could do a face to face visit.
Now, if you have symptoms of Havana syndrome, symptoms, voice to skull, the attacks,
Yep.
Linda understands all this. As I've said in the past, the medical community has to be educated as to what is involved, what goes on when you are a Havana syndrome victim. Linda knows, so you can give her a call. Go ahead,
And
Linda.
yeah, that's great because this was a conversation that you and I had a few weeks ago, because Frank and I are both in that database. We're in the State Department's database as victims of Havana syndrome. I became a victim of it. I was a senior executive in the federal government at that time, so I got to check that box. The interesting thing is they said that they referred mine to the FBI for investigation. Well, it's been years and I've heard nothing. And I don't think you have either. Have you, Frank?
I sent the questionnaire in. I received an email back telling me that I now had full permission. Number one, number two, that I am on the list, and number three, call the FBI. You have,
Yep.
yep.
But they're not responding. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's because, well, the FBI is involved in the targeted program. So that's where I kind of found it funny that they were sending these to the FBI for evaluation and investigation. It's almost like they're investigating. It's like the wolf investigating the chicken coop.
That's right. That's the next thing that we are going to do. We are going to the FBI in New Hampshire. And when we get back, we will definitely be reporting on this. And this is going to happen, I think. Linda, what would you say? Next week?
I think it's going to be next week. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So we are going to go to the FBI, and we're not going to make any demands, but we're not going to sit there and just get trampled either.
I reported my crime. It's a civil rights violation. I was told, they confirmed that I was a victim of this. I was told it was going to stop, and it's been a year and a half, and it hasn't. And now that special agent, now every time I go there or call, there's a series. There'll be like 2, 3, 4 different people that will be at a speaker behind the door that will say, "And what do you want?" So you repeat your whole story. They're all back there laughing, right? They're just doing it. They're just messing with you. No one has any intention on helping you. So I want to have witnesses and recordings of me asking for help and wanting to report a crime. And we're not the only people. There was a class action lawsuit, I thought, that was being put together for people who had put in our claim to the FBI for investigation that they never investigated. I don't know whatever became of that. So I guess maybe, Frank, you and I can try to research that. But I know,
Well, we have targeted justice in the United
yep.
States. We have Icator in Belgium. So
Okay.
there's 2 class action lawsuits right there. Targeted justice is doing very well. The case did get thrown out of court, but it has been kicked to another district, which is in Louisiana, and that's their next stop. God bless them all. I have
And
to kick a breaker back in. I will be back in about 30 seconds, so you're going to be okay, Linda.
yeah, I'm going to be okay. So the whole thing is to not get discouraged when they throw curveballs, or if curveballs get thrown at you, and you're trying to make a complaint about something or you're trying to bring something to light, don't just lay down and when they get dismiss you. I don't know how to stop my computer from giving those beeps, but sorry. That's okay. Let them dismiss you. Document date, time, and who and what. And that's your contemporaneous record of you reaching out for help and them dismissing you. And then, but just keep persevering because if you give up, they win. Don't give up. You're a victim of enough in your lifetime. Don't be a victim that's they're you're just going to stop and let them continue to harass you because they know you're not going to push back. They don't want you to push back. You make them work harder. That I say, good, I'm going to make you work a lot harder because I am never going to consent to what you're doing to me. Which is another thing too. They do some neuro monitoring of your mind. There's a couple of things that I can give you as which you already may or may not know. It all depends. I know that I'm being monitored, the way I think or my emotional responses or whatever. So one thing that you can do is you can listen to music because while you're listening to music and singing along with the song or whatever, you can't be thinking about stuff. So you're not giving them any information. Someone else said to listen to the music and dance or whatever because you can't be thinking about stuff if you're thinking about moving your body and doing stuff. So that's one thing that you can do to protect yourself. Another thing that I'll do if I can sense, sometimes I can sense things and I'll just say I do not consent. You're doing this against my permission. I do not consent. And I'll say it. I'm thinking it, I'm saying it, and that's what they're getting from information. They're not getting anything from me. I go into kind of like that name, rank, and serial number. That's what they're going to get from me. I don't consent.
Very good.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? I'm back.
Oh,
We have some semblance of a signal back again, and
okay, good.
we should be all set now.
Okay.
All right. Now let me see. What areas have we missed? What haven't we covered here?
Oh gosh, there's just so much. I mean, literally, we could do this like every day, because there's always something else. But I think again, Frank, let's let the people know. I hope I earn your trust. I've been on the radio show several times. I've called in before I became a speaker. You know, you can trust Frank. If Frank is telling you to talk to somebody, he's already vetted them. He's already that person has already earned their trust. And I really like what you're doing. When you're getting a bunch of professionals who can help this community, so they're not on their own. Because that's the other part of the targeted program, is they want to separate you. They want you to lose any type of help that you can get, your friends, your family. They want you to talk to your doctor so your doctor will label you as delusional. So we're giving you, little by little, we're giving you what you need to fight back. I talked a little bit about that psychiatric diagnosis the last time. If they diagnose you with delusions or schizophrenia or paranoid schizophrenia, you as the individual need to take a deep breath and be very calm, but be very firm and say, I want to know which criteria I meet out of the DSM 5 book that you're able to give me that diagnosis. Because you have to meet specific criteria, before they can give you that diagnosis. They can give a diagnosis that uses the term unspecified, and I do use that sometimes because they might have 4 out of 5 of the requirement. You just want to make sure that you get that knowledge. That knowledge is power, because by getting that knowledge, it's letting that provider know that you're not an idiot, that you're going to fight back. You're not going to allow this diagnosis to be in your medical record unless, of course, it's true. If they're going to give you the diagnosis, what are they going to do about it? I mean, if somebody's delusional, I put them on antipsychotics.
Right.
And that,
many of our TIs in the community are diagnosed with schizophrenia. It almost makes you want to believe that schizophrenia does not exist in the targeted community, because anybody who has V2K would be diagnosed as schizophrenic if you said it.
Well, no, there's more. So hallucinations are just part of schizophrenia. But that's the number one thing. You're paranoid, you're delusional, you have schizophrenia, you're paranoid schizophrenia. They tried to do that to me. I finally said to the cop told me I was paranoid. I said, no, there's people in my attic. I have video. I mean, you can hear them. Here's the recordings. When he told me that I was paranoid, I finally got tired of hearing it. And I said, I'd like to know what your credentials are that you can say that I'm paranoid, because you probably took a 4-hour course that does not give you the credentials to call somebody paranoid. So stand up for yourself. If they're using those labels, first of all, are you qualified to make that determination? Otherwise, well, that's slander, right? You're saying something about me that's not true that could potentially harm my character. And that's what they want to do, right? These smear campaigns is to take your character down, and so people don't believe you. Once they give you that diagnosis, then what their hope is that the medical community, they can do more. They can mess with you more, because the medical community and the police, law enforcement, are going to say, oh, well, they're just schizophrenic. But V2K is one of the components that somebody who's not being targeted would have. You can tell somebody's, if they're schizophrenic, they usually I see this a lot, but they look different. A normal person who's having V2K, yeah, you're going to have anxiety. So you're going to see different facial expressions on somebody who has anxiety. But for somebody who is schizophrenic, there's other things that they have. They either have too much dopamine or too little dopamine. You act very differently depending on which type of schizophrenia that you have. I think that might be one of the key things that we can use to fight back against this program is the knowledge. You can go online and you can look up what criteria do you need to have a diagnosis of paranoid schizophrenia, and it'll list it for you. If somebody's saying that that's what you have, and you read the diagnosis, the criteria, and you don't have it, then you need to bring that up to your doctor or whoever's giving you that diagnosis.
Linda?
Yes.
I had an idea. I just figured I would run by you. We've had situations in Massachusetts even where someone has been placed in a state hospital. Would
Yep.
you accompany me to the state hospital and use your professional expertise to help me get them out of there?
So that would have to be a case by case thing. I do have my practice and my family and all. That's something that I could definitely work with you on, that because we have talked about somebody that I was aware that had happened to them, that you helped them to get out. I definitely will team up with you on that, but I can't say that I can commit to being available to going down there. You don't have much time. It's a 72-hour hold. After 72 hours, you have to go to court. So
Right.
it was,
That's what I was hoping, to get someone out before the end of the 72-hour period. But that's something that we need to
we have to work
discuss.
together on that. Yeah, we do have to work together on that, Frank. I don't know how often this is happening, and I see this very, very serious. You want to talk about an infringement on somebody's civil rights. That's very serious. Absolutely, you need to reach out to me if this is happening to somebody. But I would have to get a lot of information, and they're probably not going to give me access to everything. Like I would need all the medical information. But let's talk about legitimately having somebody committed involuntary emergency admission. It's called something different in Massachusetts. It's called, what's it called? It's a number. Isn't it a number, Frank, in Massachusetts?
Um, yeah, it is.
Okay, I
But
forget.
to put it in general terms, they've been sectioned. We'll
That's,
say.
yeah, it's a section something. All right. So what they're saying by the provider, the emergency room provider, whoever it is, the sheriff, who knows, or the psychiatric provider, they are determining that this individual is at risk for harming themselves or others. They have that much concern for this person that they need to be admitted to make sure that they can't act on. So they hold them for 72 hours so that they can assess them, medicate them if they need medication or whatever. A lot of times they get to go after 72 hours, and sometimes they keep them in longer. That's a scary thing for an innocent person to be sectioned.
Linda, what advice do you have for someone who has been sectioned and they are in there? How do they act? Yes, sir. No, sir. I mean, what would you
Well,
recommend?
first of all, remember with this program, the targeted program, they're looking for you to do something wrong. They're looking for you to be angry enough that you're going to kick the table over, or you're going to punch the wall, or you're going to yell and start swearing or saying things so they can say that your behavior is not normal, your behavior is bizarre, it's aggressive, or whatever. The key is what I said on the last call: be aware of how you are feeling and how you're responding to what's happening. Self awareness is huge here for you all. And so that you can just say, "Oop, I am not going to let them push my buttons. I am not going to yell. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that." So that's the key. So they're not going to push your buttons. You're not going to have extremes. You also don't want to have somebody be to not communicate and not participate in anything that they're asking you to, because then you're going to get labeled with noncompliance. But I would not take medication until they told you what it is, why you're taking it, what the side effects are, what the benefits. Be a informed consumer. And if you have to write everything down, write everything down. I
Linda,
recommend writing it down.
Linda,
Yep.
can they force a TI to take a medication?
The time that they can force you, when you're an involuntary emergency admission, you're borderline being forced. When you're court ordered, then yeah, you can be forced. But let me tell you when that would happen in the legitimate case. Schizophrenia, bipolar, those are times when people go off of their medications. Those are organic diseases. It causes this behavior that really it isn't safe for the individual. It's mostly the individual. They're not going to hurt other people. They're more likely to hurt themselves. And that's the biggest concern. So they might mandate them to take like Zyprexa for somebody who is really agitated and they need to kind of calm them down. So they might be able to give you an injection of a medication. Haldol is another one. We all have seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. They cannot force you to get ECT, although it is effective under certain cases, but they were doing that as punishment during that movie. So they really you should not be seeing that, and that's why I'm saying if they're going to do anything to you, give you any medication, you need to know, even if you were forced. Say, I want to know what you gave me. What was that medication that you gave me? And ask what the medication is, what it's for, what are the benefits, what are the side effects, etc. And then of course date and time of when you best can say when you got it, and date and time, and who you talked to get the information. Keep as much information, keep that record, because that's the only way that we can really prove that we're not what they're saying we are.
That's correct. We have a gentleman who is on the board with Targeted Justice. He's been a guest on our show a couple of times. His name is Len Bear. He has been actually diagnosed by a doctor saying, bottom line, you have Havana syndrome.
Yes, I think I heard him on your show.
Okay, he is someone who we have to listen to, and you'll like to listen to him anyway. He's a great guy. How he did this? Now, I believe it was, oh God, I can't even think of the guy's name. In Florida, in Miami, Florida, he was diagnosed.
Hmm.
The original man who handled, the original doctor who handled the diplomats.
Yep. Yep.
So,
This was a couple of years ago, right? When you had him on your show?
he was on recently, actually.
Oh,
Late, early this year, I believe.
okay. I heard him when he said, I officially have Havana syndrome as a diagnosis. That's not an easy diagnosis to get. We're on the list. We can absolutely use that because we have experiences and symptoms, but he definitely, they were trying to tell, if I remember what he said, was they were trying to say, oh, yeah, well, we can diagnose Havana syndrome in these diplomats. Well, how do we diagnose Havana syndrome in a targeted individual? Right? That's a big mistake for the healthcare community to make because you've lost all your objectivity there. There's a bias, right?
Correct.
Um, so that is something that we want to be really careful about, is to not have that bias. And as targeted individuals, it's really important for us to listen to this, pay attention, listen to what these experts that Frank is putting on the air for you, listen to what they're saying so that you'll be able to be confident and say to somebody, oh no, that isn't what I'm experiencing. I don't have that. Show me how I have that. Or, oh yes, I have Havana syndrome. I'm on the State Department's list that I've had incidents, because it's usually more than one incident for targeted individuals, that have provided enough evidence for me to be on that list. Someday this is going to all come out.
Yes, it
Just like
is.
like the Tuskegee Airmen, right?
That's right.
That study that they did. Someday it's all going to come out.
I'm going to make it a point to see if we can have a conference call, a small one, and introduce you to Janet Starr Hull and
Okay.
see if you can coordinate and maybe you can work with her.
It would be great to do. I mean, do we ever get us together for like a conference or a dinner or something?
Oh, yes. Yes, we do.
I just, I moved back to New Hampshire 2021, but not officially until 2022 when I retired from the federal service. It's been kind of hard, but now it would be a lot easier. I would love to even help plan something like this. Get certain speakers so that and then you can always broadcast it too. You can always video it, like do a Zoom for people who are in other countries and can't come, or we could record it so they can see who it is that they're listening to. But this would be a great way to network. We have to lift each other up. We have to support each other. We have to. How many times, Frank, I've called you, you've called me when you're kind of at your wit's end, and it's like, who do you call? You got to call somebody that you can trust that's not going to go and tell you that you're a paranoid schizophrenic or anything.
Yeah, that you don't need that.
No,
That's not a good
but
end to the day.
we need to give the targeted community the skills so that they can protect themselves as well. We need to make sure that they have those people that, like, if we're networking, you might live in this particular county. There might be somebody else that lives not too far from you that would be a great resource for you. We can't go and give everybody, you can't go and say, okay, these are the list of targeted individuals. You can't do that, it's confidential. But if they have the opportunity to network, then they can share contact information and they'll have a resource that they can reach out to. It's going to break down this program because they're not, the old thing, divide and conquer. If they're dividing and conquering us from our friends and our family, but yet we're building relationships within the community so that we are able to support ourselves, there's strength in numbers.
That's
And
correct.
that would be a great thing for us to do.
Well, Linda, it's getting to be
Yeah.
that time again. It is just about the bottom of the hour, and I would like to thank you very much for joining us here tonight. I would like to thank our listeners, and I'm sorry the phone didn't work, but well, we'll have to take a look at that. And I'd like to
Well,
say good night
yeah.
from Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Frank Allen. Good night, Linda.
Good night.